Thank you for joining me for a tutorial on how to sync JobNimbus with QuickBooks Online. First, I'd like to start with what fields sync between JobNimbus and QuickBooks. What's going to go through for you are going to be the contacts, including all the contact information. Those will sync into QuickBooks as a new customer. If you have jobs enabled in JobNimbus, those will sync into your QuickBooks as a sub-customer. We'll take with it phone numbers, addresses, etc. It will sync estimates, invoices, credit memos, and payments on the customer side only. It'll sync products and services and bring those across. And any tax rates that you have set up in QuickBooks will come into JobNimbus. Those do have to be set up in QuickBooks ahead of time. What doesn't sync to QuickBooks Online is going to be the vendors. The contact information won't go through. It won't sync expenses or bills on those vendors. We cannot sync anything from projects. If you have information currently sitting on a project, JobNimbus will not be able to import those, nor anything on a third tier. That would be a sub-customer of a sub-customer or beyond. We can only sync the customer and sub-customer. If you are using sub-customers in QuickBooks, you will need to have the jobs feature enabled in JobNimbus in order to import those sub-customers. We're not going to sync any employee information or bank account information. From JobNimbus, we don't sync the budgets, work orders, or material orders. We do not sync class tracking if that's something you use in QuickBooks, nor locations. A single JobNimbus account can only sync to a single QuickBooks Online account. So if you are using multiple locations within JobNimbus, we are only able to sync them to a single QuickBooks Online at this time. All right, let's get started. One thing I want you to check first before we ever start the sync to QuickBooks Online are your workflows in JobNimbus. This is how JobNimbus decides when to send something to QuickBooks. If you do not have jobs enabled, you will only have contact workflows. I'm in the settings screen right now. You're only going to have contact workflows. You won't have job workflows. Let's start with contact workflows. If you're not using jobs, you'll likely have a couple of workflows here that'll be built out with several statuses. You may have residential and commercial or whatever, those are completely customizable. Let's go ahead and take a look in the edit screen. It's the send to QuickBooks column that we want to focus on. If you've got a lead or an estimating type status here, we want to leave those unchecked for the send to QuickBooks. This is to keep leads out of QuickBooks. We don't need them in QuickBooks until we know they're a customer of yours. So we're not going to send those to QuickBooks right away. As soon as it hits that sold, whatever your first sold stage is, typically signed contract, that's the one we want to be able to trigger that sync to QuickBooks. At that time, the customer would be created in your QuickBooks, including any estimates that were created along with them. And then going forward, it would continue to sync. It is not going to make duplicates as it goes through your different statuses. It's only going to sync it one time and create it one time in your QuickBooks and then continue to send transactions from there. You will likely have a lost status. Those are typically archived and are not set to go to QuickBooks either. That way, any leads that don't end up signing with you can be popped into that lost status and they stay here in JobNimbus as a lost lead, but are not cluttering up your QuickBooks with customers that were never customers. If you do use jobs, you might have a customer workflow that looks more like this one. We typically keep those very simple as far as statuses go. You may have a new and then just an active and inactive with a new status, and that would not go to QuickBooks right away. Then we have that active status that will go to QuickBooks. This is so you can bring in leads. You may have some kind of integration that brings in leads from Facebook, for example. Those aren't all going straight to your QuickBooks, and we're not dropping a bunch of customers in there until that job is ready to come into QuickBooks. Then on the job workflow, I'll have you check those as well if you do intend to use jobs. Check in the screen for each of those. Again, we have that if it's a lead, if it's an estimating, it doesn't go right to QuickBooks. Then anything that is sold or in production does go to QuickBooks. And again, that lost status. And these are totally customizable if you feel like you need them in QuickBooks. Before that, there's an estimating stage, something where you're sending money. That is totally up to you when you would like to see that in your QuickBooks. We often also set up an automation that will trigger the contact to go into QuickBooks when the job is ready to go to QuickBooks. So often if you've had us set that up, you may see that there's an automation in here so that that customer status changes when the job is modified to go to QuickBooks. All right, those all look good to me, so let's go ahead and set up that sync. If you do not see the QuickBooks tab here at the bottom of your screen, you may need to enable it in Features. That'll be found toward the bottom here. So once you turn that on, you will find that the QuickBooks tab pops up on the left-hand side, and we can go in and start that sync. So we're going to click on QuickBooks Online and connect to QuickBooks. Now, I already have my QuickBooks account open in the same browser. So it's going to go ahead and connect with whatever QuickBooks I have open. If you have multiple QuickBooks files, be sure you have the correct one open on your screen when you click this. If it's not already open, it will guide you to put in your username and password. If this is the correct account, go ahead and hit connect. All right, now that we have connected JobNimbus to QuickBooks, we need to set up our preferences and make some selections. On sync type, if you choose to do a two-way sync, all active customers from your QuickBooks will look to import into JobNimbus, as will any estimates, invoices, payments, and credit memos on those customers. If there are customers in QuickBooks that are inactive, they will not sync. If you have them on a sub-customer level, they will come into JobNimbus as a job. And again, anything on a third tier or fourth tier will not be able to sync, nor will anything on a project. That two-way sync does open up communication going in both directions between the two systems. So an invoice can sync from QuickBooks and go into JobNimbus. You can add a payment in JobNimbus, that'll go back to QuickBooks. Also, any updates or edits to those transactions will go through the sync as well. You can also do a one-way sync. We have a one-way sync from QuickBooks into JobNimbus. In this case, all information would have to be entered into QuickBooks and would then flow into JobNimbus, but nothing added or edited in JobNimbus would come back to QuickBooks. Or you can choose the one-way sync from JobNimbus into QuickBooks, in which case all information would be added or edited in JobNimbus and would flow to QuickBooks. This would be a good option if you had a lot of data in your QuickBooks going back several years that you didn't want imported into JobNimbus and didn't necessarily want to make it inactive either. Most people do choose that two-way sync. It keeps both systems in line with each other, so all the information is updated. On conflicts and merging, this is if you have two records that are linking together or being edited at the same time, and let's say there's an email address that is different between the two systems. This gives one system priority to overwrite that field in the other system. So I do recommend JobNimbus as the preference. That's what we usually have by default, but if you feel like you would like QuickBooks to be the preference, you can change that. This is not going to come into play if you're creating new records. So if you've got new records coming in from QuickBooks during this sync, it's going to give QuickBooks the priority because that record doesn't exist at all in JobNimbus yet. The record types that sync are contacts, jobs, estimates, invoices, credit memos, payments, products and services, and taxes. You do not need to select all of them. However, there is a hierarchy here. Contacts have to sync in order for jobs or anything below contacts to sync. That's why it is checked for you and you cannot uncheck it. Jobs will have to sync if you want any of your estimates or invoices that are on those jobs to sync. And then invoices will have to sync before it'll be an option for payments or credit memos. Products and services and taxes will sync the minute you select estimates or invoices. Those products and services have to sync because you will be using them as line items on those transactions. On type and status, if you are importing any contacts from QuickBooks, we need to drop them into one type and status in JobNimbus. We can only choose one here, even though you might need them in different statuses after they come in. They can be edited once they come into JobNimbus. So if you are bringing them in from QuickBooks, chances are they're no longer in a new status and you'd want them to come in active status, or perhaps you want them to come in and go right to archived and you'd prefer to bring them into an inactive status. Then on the jobs, we will have that same selection. You can choose from different workflows that you have here. And then if you've got a lot of your jobs coming in, these are your sub-customers in QuickBooks, and they're paid and closed, you'd like them to come in and be archived, you can choose paid and closed here. I recommend just choosing the status that the bulk of those jobs would be in. So be it paid and closed, be it signed contract, you choose, but all of them do just have to go into one. You can sync these individually field by field. In fact, I recommend it if you have a lot of records that are going to be going through the sync today. So let's say you've got several hundred contacts that are going to try to sync. I would go ahead and run that sync just for contacts right away. You would click the before proceeding button and enable sync just for contacts. If you're not moving a whole lot of records, we can just choose all of the fields that we want all at once and enable that sync. Notice products and services and taxes are checked for you. It is not possible to make a backup of QuickBooks that saves. So if you are concerned about your QuickBooks data, I do recommend running some reports in QuickBooks, perhaps an aging report or a transaction report, so that you have something to compare that to after the sync runs. And we're going to click Enable Sync. This is going to compile a list of reports. Nothing is actually going through the sync. Now we've got some reports here that we need to review. Please take the time to review these reports. This is how we prevent any duplicates from being created. Know that nothing has actually gone through the sync yet at this point. This is just the chance to review the reports. You can still make any changes that you need to in either system. Click on View Records to see exactly what records are going to be created. So right now we're just looking at contacts. Now know that the records between the two systems will be able to link together if the display names are identical. So the display names have to be the same. Can't even have like an extra space in between the first name and the last name. If they are not identical, it will create duplicates in either system. So we're going to go ahead and take a close look at this report. I can see right off the bat I've got a customer by the name of Dewey Care. It's telling me it's going to create in JobNimbus. Now I am pretty sure that Dewey Care is already in my JobNimbus. So before I hit the button to sync anything and create a duplicate, I'm going to jump into another tab of JobNimbus, and I found Dewey already previously. He is in my JobNimbus, but he's under the name of Dewey Dare. So the name is different here. Now, if I were to go ahead and sync now, I would end up with a Dewey Dare and a Dewey Care in both systems. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this and change that display name to Dewey Care and save it. If I jump back into my reports, it's not going to update this here right now. I would actually have to run this report again to be able to see that change. But I'm going to keep reviewing this report for now. I do have this record that is going to link with no changes. If there were any changes that were going to be made on any of these records, let's say there was an email address or something that was going to be modified because we gave one system a preference and it's going to change an email address according to, I believe I gave JobNimbus the preference, it would actually highlight it here and it would show what was being changed or edited. So you do want to review those, make sure you're not losing a phone number or getting an address deleted or modified that is incorrect. So we're going to keep looking through our report, make sure everything's going to link together and pay close attention to anything saying it's going to create new. All right, I found one that says it's going to create new in my JobNimbus, Gymnasium. Now, if I search for him in JobNimbus, I don't believe he is in here. Looks like I have, oh, I've got a job in here by his name, but I don't have a primary contact for him. So it's going to create that contact for me. That's okay. I need something for that job to go to anyway, so I'm going to let that create from my QuickBooks. Now this record is going to be created in QuickBooks, and I'm pretty sure Ginger Snap is in my QuickBooks already. So I'm going to check for her in here. Now I can see right here that she says deleted in QuickBooks. That means she's been made inactive in QuickBooks. So JobNimbus can't see that. So if I were to sync this right now, it would have been recreated in my QuickBooks and I'd have had a duplicate. But since I caught it ahead of time, I'm going to go ahead and make Ginger Snap active again in my QuickBooks. Now JobNimbus will be able to link to that record. Dewey there we already fixed on the JobNimbus side. Okay, so I've fixed everything in here I want to fix. I'm going to run that report again just to make sure those are going to link together. So if you hit start over from here, it's going to take you back. If I hit continue right here, it would actually sync these through. So because I want to check that report and make sure it's correct, I'm going to hit start over. I'm going to run those reports again, backing my fields. And when my reports pop up, I can see right here that more have linked and less are being created new. So I'm pretty sure I've got those linking up now. Ginger Snap is linking, Dewey Care is linking. Okay, I feel good about that. You'd want to take the time to do the same for your other job records, or your job records, invoice records, all the records that are here. Note that the invoice report can sometimes be inaccurate for a couple of reasons. Products and services are going to sync at the same time. So sometimes we'll actually get a report saying that no invoices are going to come in from QuickBooks, even though there are some that are going to come in. It's just because maybe the products and services haven't synced yet, and so those can't come in. Another issue might be that you get an incorrect invoice report would be know that an invoice cannot sync if it's contact or job has not synced, and if we have a contact or job that's in, let's say, paid and closed, and that stats doesn't sync, so the contact hasn't synced, those invoices are not actually going to go through. They may still show up in this report like they will, but know that if a contact doesn't sync, the invoice cannot either. So check through those reports, make sure everything looks good. Once you're certain you want that to go forward and actually sync, hit the continue button. Now it pops this back here like it's all done. It's actually still running in the background. You'll get a timestamp here when it's finished. You'll also get an email. You will have to refresh your browser in JobNimbus in order to see that timestamp, but that's how you'll know it's done. Okay, so I have refreshed my browser. I have a timestamp here at the top now, so I know the sync has completed and gone through. I have a pink box at the top that says show sync errors. This does not mean the sync did not complete. This just houses records that could not go through the sync for one reason or another. It'll list those records here. You do want to check this periodically, for sure right after you do the sync, but periodically going forward to make sure that you're not having records pop into here that you're not noticing. Check it and see if there's any new ones in there that you need to address. So in here, got a couple of different errors. I'm not going to go into depth on those errors today. They are fairly descriptive. If you need some further help with them, you can reach out to us through support or through chat if you're not sure how to clear those errors. But it will tell you exactly which system the record is from and why it wasn't able to sync. Let's say I went into this invoice and I corrected the issue here. I duplicated this invoice to create a new document number, and I did fix that in JobNimbus. I can come in here into JobNimbus in the settings screen and click that retry button, and it's now going to try to sync that record again the next time it syncs. On your first sync, likely you may have a few document error numbers, but likely most of the errors will be on records coming from QuickBooks. So you would have to return to QuickBooks to correct those records in QuickBooks and come in here and hit that retry for JobNimbus to look for them again. Hit your go back to return to this screen and you're all set. Your sync is in place. Congratulations.